I'm Coach Chris.
Jonn Barrameda, your neighborhood nutrition ninja.
And today we're going to be talking about lagging body parts, bringing those up to just create the most symmetrical and aesthetic physique as possible. I got a couple topics I want to discuss regarding it, and then of course John does as well. So my main way to approach this is going to be more from like an activation standpoint. Like, are you feeling the muscle that you are trying to target? For example, if you do a close grip bench press, are you feeling it in your triceps or your delts or your pecs taking over? There's several different ways that you can correct this if other muscles are taking over. One would be to pre-exhaust. So basically you do a set or a few sets of isolated tricep exercise, like a press down or an extension, just a movement at the elbow basically. So you get blood in the tricep, you just kind of wake it up, so then you're more apt to be able to activate that muscle when you are doing a compound exercise. So number one, pre-exhaust. And what's your next?
Chris really got that right when it comes to pre-exhaust. I remember before when I'd start working out, typically people would go to the gym and you would go bench press right away when you're fresh. Although I do believe that's good when you still all have that strength during the day. I think towards the second exercise, this is when I started to feel the pump and the activation, like he was saying. So besides the fact that you can do pre-exhaust, it's very important, I think, that you need to work on your working sets first. So as soon as you come in there, don't bang out right away. Say, for example, you can do 225. Don't put 185 right away. Work your way up and get a good feel and, get like a 1 or 2 working sets, then do your all-out set. But a lot of variables come in too if you're injured. If you have pains in certain exercises, I think that another thing is there's no absolute when it comes to training a body part. So, for example, flat bench hurts your shoulders. You don't have to do flat bench all the time. You can do incline. There's certain machines out there. So there's numerous ways. So for example, an athlete has an issue with their lower back whenever they're doing regular squats. We don't need to do free weight squats. There's a lot of different things you can do, but it all comes down to A, is there any pain? Are you having any discomfort? Then 2, are you feeling the muscle work when you're doing that specific exercise? So what I'm trying to get, there's no absolute when you're training a muscle group. You can, of course, doing a push-up as opposed to doing a hammer strength machine press are 2 different things, right? You're still putting more resistance. But if you feel that certain movement you're using puts a lot of pain and discomfort, then maybe you need to try something else. And that's another thing that a lot of us have a misconception, just because, hey, we got to do shoulder press, we got to do behind the neck, for example. Well, behind the neck is really putting strain in your rotator. Just because your training partner is doing that, that doesn't mean you have to do that too.
Especially if you don't have the mobility, if you don't have the external rotation, and you're just putting a ton of stress on the shoulders. And that's kind of part of what my next thing is as far as lagging body parts is, like, you may not be able to activate it because of a flexibility issue. So if, for example, your bicep is tight, you may not be able to straighten your arm out all the way to activate your triceps.
That's it.
So you have to look at things like that. Even the way you grip the bar, like with a close grip bench, if one wrist is here, one wrist is here, if you're gripping harder with one. So there's a lot of little things to pay attention to, and the answer's not always add an extra set for
or add
whatever.
more weight.
Or add more weight. Oftentimes it's reduce the weight and feel the contractions.
That's it.
Of course, your split can matter too. I mean, a little
very big,
more
very
volume, especially like if it's a whole body part, like your back, for example. You might need 2 back days instead of 1.
Yeah. Some people do different body parts on. Although I do believe that any whatever method you train your body part. Let's say, for example, you want to do the old school Arnold, which is chest and back. That works, But there's going to be a time where you feel the need to prioritize certain body parts. So, for example, this individual has a weak upper chest. So let's just say they train their chest on day 1, and they do a full volume, 16 sets, right? And they're getting a good pump, no pain, no discomfort. They're getting what they need for that specific training session. They can train it again later on the week, but I don't suggest to train that on Wednesday. Maybe on a Thursday and Friday. And when you do that Thursday, Friday, don't do exactly what you did on Monday. If you do something, maybe change the grip position. If you were doing a lot of open palm, maybe do some neutral grip and do machines, more shaping. But I think if you do the same workout you did on Monday and you did that on a Thursday or even on a Friday, you didn't really overtrain. However, if you put the same amount of volume, you did 20 sets here on Monday and 20 sets on Thursday, I think you're opening yourself up to overtraining.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if your weights are constantly improving, then you're probably good. But if you're stalled, you might need more rest or more recovery in between each workout. But to kind of summarize, in my opinion, basically, if you can't feel the muscle you're working, then it's more of a pre-exhaust. It's more of a focus on your form, lighten the weight, slow down your tempo, especially the negative eccentric part.
Yep.
And even things like me, like my left arm isn't nearly what my right arm is, so I have to really pay attention to lightening the load, focus on squeezing with my left arm or with my left hand on the bar, and making sure the left tricep is feeling just as much as the right tricep is. If you are feeling what you're doing and you're still lagging, I would look at it from a volume or a frequency approach. Just add more.
But your connection is very important.
Yeah.
I can particularly say about this one individual that I train, she doesn't get the connection on her tricep no matter what. I think it's her left arm. She can't get it. So we tried all kinds of things. So right now we're working into just really pre-exhausting it to the max. Now she's able to feel a better pump. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't feel the pump, if you're doing a bench press, if you're doing an incline press or machine press, but you're not feeling that muscle work, then who's not to say it may be your form, it may be a lot of things, so you have to watch these areas first. Your form, the weight that you put. If you're doing something like 3 reps and you're struggling, you can barely make that first hoist, then maybe it's too much weight. So your weights too mean a whole lot when it comes to doing that. But more than anything else, if you don't feel that particular exercise, you really have to consider in doing several things differently, so a lot of people are like that. It's just how our body is. It's just so weird. You know what I mean? Some people can't feel, for example, bench press. A lot of people feel that on their front delt. Mm-hmm. A lot of athletes feel, say, for example, behind the neck press is more beneficial to them as opposed to the front. Everybody's different. Find something that works. Make sure there's no pain and discomfort. And you're feeling the pump. If you're not feeling the pump, there's a lot of things you need to look into.
Yep. I think that's pretty much covers it for me. Anything else you want to add?
The split part. I think, how do you feel about whenever somebody has a weak body part? How would you approach that?
As far as like training frequency goes, well, one, I think it depends on what the body part is. So if it's like arms, I feel like you could train arms and calves, for example, 3 or 4 times a week, maybe if your volume and intensity is a little bit lower and you're just focusing on activation. Obviously if you're super sore or sore at all, you might not want to do that. But for me, from arms, I hit them often because it's just, I want to feel it. I want that contraction. Once I feel like I've got a better grasp on that, then I'll go heavier and I'll reduce the frequency and maybe only do them twice a week. But bigger body parts, I think you pretty much twice a week is about, like legs and back and things like that. So if my legs are weak, I train them twice a week. I train everything else once a week, as long as I'm feeling the contractions.
For me, you have to look at the aesthetic standpoint. In what we do, it's definitely more of the aesthetic approach. So for example, Chris, let's just say he needs to work on a certain body part. Maybe he needs to do this, partner this with another body part on a certain day instead of going full blast. Instead of doing, say for example, he wants to train his back on a Monday. Now his mid back needs to be worked or upper back, whatever he needs to be focusing. Maybe he needs to partner that shoulder day with an upper back day instead of making full volume. Then on a separate day, let's just say on his another back day, he focuses on a little bit of rear delts. So you just have to look and see what the body parts you need to improve and just work from there. So specific training. So for example, your shoulders, right? You want to train your rear delts and you feel like your rear delts is a weak body part. So hit them on shoulder day, then maybe on back day, hit a rear delt exercise too. But don't do that same volume you did on shoulder day.
Also food too, you know, on a lagging body part day, let's say you're not in just a straight bulk phase and you have to monitor what you're doing as far as your calories go. You could have bigger calorie days on your weaker body part days. So
I agree.
A little bit bigger pre-meal, a little bit bigger post-meal. If you're doing post-workout cardio, skip that on the weak body part days and put it on the strong body part days.
Yeah.
So you're just focusing on restoring that glycogen and basically, you know, feeding the body more on those weaker body part days.
Eat more food on the days that you feel that body part is kind of weak. If leg days are kind of, you want to improve, not just strength wise, but just your legs are not, you know, symmetrical to your upper body. You feel like they're lagging. So maybe the day before you do legs, increase your food or the meals leading into your leg day. For example, you train legs at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe the meals leading to that 3 o'clock session, eat more. It may be carbohydrates. You know, of course, you need more rest. I think that a lot of people have this thing. So, for example, they'll sleep 6 hours. Then like, man, I'm not doing good on leg day. Maybe on leg day, maybe you need to sleep 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's different. That's what I'm trying to get. Everybody's different, but you have to find first what works for you, and just look at it in a standpoint to where what do I need to do and improve. You want to have a game plan. I think that if you don't have a game plan, you're just going in circles. You know, that's when you figure, oh, I'm not making improvements. But if you dissect it, you know what? 2020, the first part, I think I increased the size of my arms. So coming from spring to summer, I need to focus more on upper back development, because it's so hard to do everything at the same time. It really is. So just break it down. This first 3 months, I'm going to focus on this. Still train everything else like you do, but I'm going to emphasize on my upper chest. I'm going to focus on my upper chest on Monday and Thursday for the first, say for example, 4 months. Then later on, you know what, I'm going to focus on my mid back. So now I'm going to train my mid back twice a week during spring and leading to summer. So that's another approach, I believe, to priority training. So just make sure everything you do doesn't make you overtrain. I think that's the biggest thing. If you don't, then you're just going to go around in circles.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Cool. So basically, I think it's a different approach if you are not feeling the muscle, if you're not getting the activation, than it is if you are getting the activation. Other than that, you know, figure out which one it is, and let us know if you got questions about it. We're happy to help.
Any questions? Just shoot an email to right underneath. What's your email, Chris?
It's CoachChrisGibson@gmail.com.
And mine is down below here. Hit the link. It's Jonn Barrameda, JONN.Barrameda, BARRAMEDA @gmail.com. Feel free to shoot us any questions, training or nutrition. We'll be glad to help you guys out.
Cool. See you guys next week.